This is a Sports Catastrophe production. Hey there, Heather, ho there. It's Jeff Cutter. I welcome you to another Sports Catastrophe on this day. And on this day, October the 26th, 1985, the year of my birth, Game 6 was controversially manipulated by a umpire. So, we'll talk about the Denkinger thing later, but let's talk about context. It was the Kansas City Royals and the St. Louis Cardinals in the World Series. They called it the I-70 series because the cities are connected by Interstate 70. The Cardinals and the Mets had a battle royale in September to win the NL East. The Mets were close. They only missed by a few games, despite Dwight Gooden having a fantastic 24-4 campaign. One of the best campaigns in modern history. But St. Louis just had it better. John Tudor freaking had a 20-win season. He was once 1-6 to start his 1985, and then all of a sudden he went 20-1 over his last 21 decisions. The Royals also were in a tight division race. They ended up only winning by one game over the California Angels. The LA Dodgers were the only ones of the four division winners not to have it go down to the final weekend. As Kansas City's opponent in the ALCS, yes, I'm talking about the Blue Jays, baby, also had to go down to the final weekend. The Cardinals were looking to win their 10th World Series title, where the Royals were looking to win their first. The Royals were an expansion team in 1969 that came of age, especially in the late 70s and early 80s, just being decent. And this would actually be the first World Series in 1985 that had all night games, no day games. Like, fuck, you couldn't even do that. And Tim McCarver called his first World Series this year, alongside Al Michaels and Jim Palmer. As I said in a previous video, Howard Cosell was supposed to be in doing the 1985 World Series, but because of his controversial book, I Never Played the Game, he was basically removed. McCarver would go on to call 24 World Series telecasts, not as a play-by-play man, but as a color commentator. This was actually the second time there was an all-Missouri World Series. In 1944, the St. Louis Cardinals and the St. Louis Browns, who would soon become the Baltimore Orioles, took on each other. And from 1976 to 1985, the DH was used in all games with even-numbered years. So that meant, even in Kansas City, the pitchers had to hit for themselves. But the 1986 World Series, which I will get to, which I got to yesterday, was the first time that the DH rule was in its ballpark, the American League ballpark, and just at the American League ballpark. The 1985 World Series marked the fifth time in history that a team came back from 3-1 down to win the title, and the first in which the 85 Royals were the first team to do that when they were down 0-2 at home and all that. The New York Mets would also do that too for 86. They were down 0-2 after winning 2 at home. Brett Saberhagen was named MVP because of his heroics. Anyway, the AL and NLCS was a tight affair. The Cardinals and the Royals got skin and teeth. Yeah, the Cardinals won it in 6 games, but it could have been different. St. Louis had their own issues. Vince Coleman was hurt before Game 3 of the 1985 NLCS because of an automatic tarp that got him a bone chip that meant he was out for the postseason. Still, the Cardinals managed to win the series in 6, thanks to the heroics of Ozzie Smith's Game 5 home run, which he never hit a home run batting lefty, but he did. And then Game 6, when Jack Clark hit a home run, even though that Lasorda should have pitched around to Jack Clark, because Eddie Van Slyke was not really having a good NLCS, and, that could have been dangerous. But worst of all, if you're in the ALCS, especially for me, because I'm a Blue Jays fan, yes, I'm salty, whatever you want to call it. Kansas City was down 3-1. The Jays lost Game 5. No big deal. They needed to win one game at Exhibition Stadium to get to the World Series. But it didn't happen. Thanks to Jim Sundberg's windblown triple in Game 7 off Dave Steve, the Royals came back from 3-1 down, knocking the Jays out. Of course, the interesting thing is that in '85, this was the first time that the LCS was a best of 7, meaning you had to win 4 instead of winning 3. If this happened, I think this might have happened because of the Cubs trickery in '84 and they were lovable losers. But the fact of the matter is, if it was best of 5, the Blue Jays would have been in the World Series against the Cardinals. Not just that, with the Blue Jays winning the World Series, going to the World Series, winning it would probably be a different story. But the fact of the matter is, it also would have done a lot more credence to Ozzie Smith's home run in Game 5. I know there'll probably be strategy changes, but Ozzie Smith's home run would have been a pennant-winning home run, and then it would have been way higher in the best postseason moments of all time. Trust me. So anyway, in Game 1, the Cardinals beat the Royals 3-1. John Tudor, who, as I said, went on a powerful streak, 20-1, to end his year. Beat Danny Jackson, Tyler Worrell to save, the great rookie and all that. The funny thing is that Lonnie Smith actually was a Cardinal and then was traded to Kansas City. So that was kind of pathetic. Yeah. Game 2 saw the Royals actually up 2-0 in the 4th inning, and it looked like the Royals were going to tie it up. Unfortunately, Charlie Liebrant was left in a little too long in the game. It was weird that Dick Hauser didn't want his ace Dan Quisenberry to close out the game. Liebrant allowed a double to McGee, but after a pair of outs, he was 1 out away from doing it when he gave up Jack Clark's RBI single. Okay, 2-1, get Quisenberry. Sadly, though, the bases were loaded, and Terry Pendleton cleared them with a double. It was pathetic that, Dick Hauser may have screwed himself up. Royals were down 0-2 headed to St. Louis for Game 3. But the great ace, Brett Saberhagen, would take down Joaquin Andujar, 6-1. So Brett Saberhagen had a pregnant wife who was due to give birth any day. But she gave birth during Game 6, ironically enough. So the Royals crushed St. Louis 6-1. Game 4, St. Louis came back to win 3-0 as John Tudor did it again. This guy looked like he was going to probably be the World Series MVP, if anything. So the Royals were in deep trouble. In Game 5, they needed something. Danny Jackson against the legend that was Bob Forsch. Kind of weird how St. Louis decided to have Forsch pitch Game 5. But they needed something. Sadly, though, Kansas City would score 3 in the second and win 6-1. It was amazing. And then Game 6 happened. Danny Cox versus Charlie Liebrant. This game was actually close. However, the first run of the game didn't come to the 8th inning when Brian Harper, playing for the Cardinals, who would later be the main catcher for the Twins in the 1991 World Series, which I will get to tomorrow, single home Terry Pendleton to score 1-0. And St. Louis looked decent and all that. So after 8.5 innings, it's 1-0 St. Louis. They had 3 more outs and game set match in Kansas City of all places. Herzog needed Todd Worrell to come in to the game, obviously. And the first batter was Jorge Orta, George Orta, I guess. Like former Blue Jay, George Orta. He sent a choppy bouncer to Jack Clark. Clark easily tossed it to Worrell to tag the bag for the force out. However, even though Worrell had tagged the bag ahead of Orta, he was called safe thanks to Denkinger. Denkinger didn't really have much of a feel of the lunging Worrell's glove. Orta should have been called out, thanks to replays and all that. It was not good. So anyway, the Royals now had to run first, and Steve Balboni came in. However, on a 1-1 pitch, Balboni hit a pop-up in foul territory. Jack Clark seemed to get it. Okay, fair enough. You got yourself the first out. But he fouled up. He lost track of the ball, and it dropped on the top step of the dugout. 2 pitches later, Balboni would single, putting runners on first, second, and no out. And then Oct26, I don't know if he was Davey's brother. I think he was. No, he's the cousin of Jose Lind, but I don't think he's Davey Concepcion's brother. I gotta take a look. Nope, he's not. He's not related to Davey Concepcion. But anyway, he was a pinch runner for Balboni. Jim Sundberg failed to sacrifice the runners over. With 2 strikes, he bunted, but it was sent to Worrell, who easily threw the third to get Orta out. So it's first and second with 1 out. Unfortunately, Darryl Porter, the legendary catcher, made a sign mistake and allowed a pass ball, allowing Concepcion and Sundberg to advance to third and second, respectively. With first base open, Herzog decided to intentionally walk Hal McRae, the legendary Kansas City Royal of the 1970s, who was pinch hitting, to set up a double play. McRae would be replaced by John Wathan, the pinch run. With the bases loaded and 1 out, another pinch hitter, Dane Orge, Garf's brother, who was part of the third base platoon for the Blue Jays in 1985, came in and got a base hit. Concepcion scored, and then Sundberg was looking for the winning run. Andy Van Slyke had a good throw, but Porter did not get in the right position to slide to get Sundberg slide. The game-winning run scores. We go to Game 7 the next night. The Royals are happy. Denkinger thought he made the right call on that play, even though the TV replay said he was really wrong. But he met with Commissioner Ubrov, and that wasn't good. He would later claim that he was waiting to hear the ball land in Worrell's glove while watching the bag for Orta's foot. But he didn't hear Worrell catch the ball because of the Royal Stadium crowd noise. He said, I was in good position, but Worrell is tall. The throw was high, and I couldn't watch his glove with feet at the same time. It was a soft toss, and there was so much crowd noise, I couldn't hear the ball hit the glove. So, St. Louis was just upset with themselves. Then came Game 7. Brett Saberhagen against John Tudor. This was perfect for St. Louis. I mean, Tudor was a decent pitcher and should have been the World Series MVP if the Cardinals had clinched in less than... It didn't have to play Game 7. But Brett Saberhagen was an icon. I think Saberhagen could not pitch Game 6 because of his place giving birth the night before. Brett Saberhagen was just on fire, giving up only 5 hits. In the second inning, Darryl Motley, not really known as a home run hitter, hit one to left field off John Tudor. A 2-run home run made it 2-0. In the third inning, Lonnie Smith walked, and then George Brett hit an infield single. After a double steal, Tudor would walk Frank White to load the bases and walk Jim Sundberg to make it 3-0. Tudor was out. He was angry. Well, Bill Campbell came in, but gave up a 2-run single to Steve Balboni. Tudor was charged with all 5 runs. He punched an electrical fan and cut his pitching hand. The Royals would blow the game open in the 5th inning, up 5-0. 5 Cardinal pitchers pitched that inning, giving up 6 runs. Campbell was replaced by Jeff Latty, who was replaced by Ricky Horton. And then Joaquin Andujar was pressed into relief. After the Royals made it 10-0, Andujar was not happy with Denkinger's strike zone. Denkinger, unfortunately, was behind the plate for that game. Herzog was trying to defend Andujar from being ejected, but Herzog was subsequently ejected. He did tell Denkinger, we wouldn't be here if you hadn't missed the fucking call last night. And Denkinger allegedly said, well, if you guys weren't hitting 120 in the World Series, we wouldn't be here. Andujar was upset. After the pitch was a ball, he charged and he bonked Denkinger. Andujar, unfortunately, would be given a 10-game suspension in '86 because of this. It was actually rumored that Herzog sent Andujar to go after Denkinger. Herzog said that he was the only pitcher who had anything in his arm. After Andujar was knocked out, Bob Forsch came in. He and Ken Daly didn't give up any runs as the Royals won 11-0, but the Cardinals couldn't score. This was pathetic. I mean, the Cardinals couldn't even get one run. So as I said, the Royals were the first team ever to win the World Series despite being down 0-2 after their 2 losses at home. The Mets would accomplish that feat, and the Yankees would also accomplish the feat in 1996, down 0-2 to Atlanta, winning 4 straight. So the Royals became the 5th team to come back from a 3-1 deficit in the World Series. The other 4 were the 1925 Pittsburgh Pirates, the 1958 New York Yankees, the 1968 Detroit Tigers, and 1979 Pittsburgh Pirates. And the Royals weren't the last team to do that, as the 2016 Cubs came back from 3-1 down against the Indians. So it would be amazing. The Cardinals would bat 185 in the series, which was the lowest for a 7-game World Series. I thought it was the lowest ever for a 7-game series, but no, actually, the Yankees hit 183 in the 2001 World Series, which I will get to in November. Wow, I didn't even realize that. However, they did score only 13 runs in 7 games. So, yeah, in the final 26 innings, or roughly 3 games, they only scored 1 run. They still would have been outscored if they won the game in Game 6, 15-13. But, man, it was like unbelievable. How St. Louis would only score 13 runs in 7 innings. That's just like pathetic. That's not even 2 runs a game. Well, it's just under 2 runs a game. Now, to be fair, St. Louis just couldn't bat in all that. They did blame the fact that St. Louis didn't have Vince Coleman, who was a good leadoff guy. That meant that Lonnie Smith That meant that That meant that St. Louis had to use Tito Landrum in Coleman's spot. But Tito Landrum was a decent hitter. St. Louis had to use, I think it was Pendleton or Van Slyke to be the leadoff guy now that Coleman was hurt. And they weren't used to that. Tommy Herr wasn't really good and all that. So the 1985 Cardinals would suffer dearly for that loss. Denkinger would be vilified forever in St. Louis hearts. St. Louis would not get back to the World Series, let alone win it, till 2006 when they took care of the Detroit Tigers. So St. Louis has won and even won the 2011 World Series. So there's a silver lining. Kansas City would suffer dearly. It wouldn't be until 2014 that they got to the playoffs. Winning that wild card game against Oakland that got them to the ALDS against Baltimore, swept them, and then they swept the LCS from, I believe, Detroit, which meant that, Kansas City got to the 2014 World Series, but lost Game 7 on home turf to San Francisco, thanks to Madison Bumgarner. But the Royals would get the World Series title in 2015, at the expense of the Blue Jays, yet again. Fuck. Baseball would go through a lot of changes after the 85 season. But, yeah, that LCS thing. If only the LCS was the best of 5, then the Cardinals probably would have won the World Series. So, that's that. And Denkinger probably would not have been a dick in the World Series. But who knows? Anyway, I'm Jeff Diamond. I do.